They were looking for Muslims. Any Muslims around in Long Island? The Reformed Jewish community wants to start an interfaith conversation. Well, that was the beginning of American Muslims and Jews in dialogue. And Rabbi Davidson has been a remarkable supporter, and when you read the newsletter which we have prepared for you, you will see that he was on the panel at the United Nations presentation, and he presented his Interfaith Institute at the United Nations. Then, in the terror attack of 9/11, and of course, we all suffered from that, and an acquaintance, actually someone from Dr. Bucks's college, called me. He said he heard Monsignor Tom Hartman speak at an event, and he wanted to do something so that this negative portrayal is corrected and we do some correct portrayal. That led to a conversation with Monsignor Hartman, the late Monsignor Hartman, and the creation of a program on telecare which was labeled Our Muslim Neighbors. And they taped 20 segments over a period of time. We were giving the content, and he and Rabbi Gelman were putting it on the show. So that was his effort. And then came something strange happens in October every 2 years. We suddenly get attacked. 85% of the mosques are under control of terrorists, blah, 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 they're not part of the country, and so on. And we arranged a meeting here in 2006. And we had Mark Lukens, we had a couple of rabbis, a couple of key people from the community basically rebut all that nonsense on television, on tape, for the record. So it was clear to me that, and during this time, we were going to churches, synagogues, libraries, schools. It was clear to me that there's an understanding out there. There were some very good people who want to help. And so I said, let me think about this. And I met Reverend Tom Goodhue, who you'll hear from. And he said, sounds like a great idea. I wasn't still sure. Then I visited Dr. Bucks in his office. You know, to get an appointment with the president of the university is not easy. So he found the time. And when I shared this idea with him, he said, go for it. And so with that kind of an encouragement, we established and got the Interfaith Institute registered in New York State, thanks to one of our member lawyers, Nadia Pervez. And the Institute was launched last October. And you will see in the booklet, in the newsletter which has been given to everybody, the two major articles that appeared in Newsday, the day of the launch and the day after. And our keynote speaker was Professor Andrew Murrow. And he has basically dug up all kinds of documents where he has elaborated on Prophet Muhammad's life and how he dealt with other people of other faith. And these are collectively the covenants of Prophet Muhammad. They come in two forms. One is the Cliff Notes, and the other is a real 300-400 page book with all the documents. And for those of you who are from the library or have an institution and want to put it there, I'd be happy to give you, I have 5-6 copies of those. These have been made available to all of you in the booklet. So basically, I don't know what these ISIS people come from, what they're all about, and the teachings are very clear. How to deal with members of other faiths. It's very clear. Very clear. You cannot attack a monastery, you cannot attack a church.
October 10th, 2015, when I declared my intent to wear a hijab in solidarity with my Muslim sisters, I did not view the act as sacrifice. While I did wear the headscarf throughout the Christian season of Advent, I called this time one of devotion to what Jesus does and did as a matter of course, and what Christians like me are called to do as a matter of course as well. Place ourselves in the midst of oppression to walk with the most vulnerable of our time. For Jesus, that was women, lepers, Gentiles, those whose bodies, society, and religion, more glaringly, had declared unclean. Not fit for religion, not fit for politics, not fit for life. They were relegated to the margins of society. and of politics of our lives. No inner courts for them. But Jesus saw them, and Jesus moved toward them, touching them, healing them, feeding their bodies, and in the process affirming their souls as the souls to be emulated by us. Those souls that were poor, not financially per se, but humble in spirit. Interfaith and multi-faith movements must be about the soul. Bodies are imbued with dignity because bodies transport and dignify those souls within. When I wore a hijab, it was a damn shame that a black Christian woman working at an evangelical college called the country to attention by complicating the lines of solidarity. The solidarity can go across our faiths. Religious women of all ilks cover their heads. Jewish women, as well as nuns in habits, women in burkinis, ibtihaj in the Olympics, Mother Teresa, a saint, Jesus, Mother Mary. Hijab is a concept that we should all embrace. Hijab is simply a way of honoring God with our bodies.
Takbir. Allahu Akbar.
Hijab and jihad are pursuits for all people on a spiritual journey. Resistance with our bodies. Honoring Allah with your body, with my body, whatever the cost. And the cost may be to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God on behalf of the vulnerable. The cost may be death. And the true is same today as it was when many of our ancestors and many of our martyrs walked before us. To do justice is to never make peace with the oppression that racks our bodies, racks our souls, and racks our common planet. So I want to finish reading a quote by Brother Malcolm X that I think typifies this struggle that we find ourselves commonly engaged in this day and age of Islamophobia, and race and religion used as triumphalism in the name of the flag. Donald Trump, in case you don't get what I'm saying. Malcolm X says, in my favorite speech ever, The Ballot or the Bullet, although I'm still a Muslim, I'm not here tonight to discuss my religion. I'm not here to try and change your religion. I'm not here to argue or discuss anything that we differ about, because it's time for us to submerge our differences and realize that it is best for us to first see that we have the same problem, a common problem, a problem that will make you catch hell, whether you're a Baptist or a Methodist or a Muslim or a nationalist. Whether you're educated or illiterate, whether you live on the boulevard or in the alley, you're going to catch hell, just like I am. We're all in the same boat, and we're all going to catch the same hell from the same man. He just happens to be a white man, says Brother Malcolm, who could add the American Empire.
That is, for me, what is most important. Listen, ISIS is a terrorist organization. There's no question about that. They really have no firm religious root or faith. They claim Islam, but should not be identified with Islam. And the pervasive ignorance that sweeps across our society today, meaning the United States of America, that seeks to identify a terrorist organization with a faith and therefore paint with a broad brush across the faith, simply reveals to us the deep insecurities and fear and the cover-up of lies that have been perpetuated across the centuries that harm America today. You cannot associate ISIS with Islam any more than you can associate the Ku Klux Klan with Christianity. Listen. The first name was the Christian Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. They wore a cross on their robes with a drop of the blood of Jesus in the center. was a terrorist organization that haunted people of color. And the hijab is similar to my complexion. It easily identifies you. And so therefore you become the target of the hatred that is pervasive among some in this nation. And Richard Pryor, since my dear beloved sister Hawkins made the crassness so real for us. Richard Pryor would say to Muslims, and he was one of our most insightful satirists, that you are, and I use his quote, the sand diggers. Sand. In other words, those of us who originate in the Middle East, call ourselves Muslim, are now identified with me as they would call me. You are everything that the racists and bigots in this country hate. I want to remind you also that those same racists and bigots hated you deeply and passionately because they saw the Jews as a kind of cabal of secretiveness and mystic, and they didn't understand you. They saw you much like Hitler. But also I would remind you that they would hang a Catholic priest as quickly as they would hang a black man in the Deep South. Is it Bob Jones University? Do I remember castigation of the Catholic faith by the bigots there? And so, my dearly beloved sisters and brothers, it is not difficult for me to identify with the hatred that has been perpetrated against Muslims. I'm glad my sister referenced, because that too.
Thank you so much. I'm truly honored to be here and to just take in all of your positive energy. I believe we are all called to be bridges. We are called to be bridges of faith, to promote peace and understanding. As a representative of the oldest and largest network of soup kitchens here on Long Island, I have seen every day that our similarities as fellow human beings brings out the natural goodness that is inherent in our basic human natures, which I believe have divine urges. In order to experience these feelings of kindness and concern for others, which I believe is our divine instinct, we simply need to join each other in our communities and break bread together. We can then share our universal purpose in being alive, which is to be truly human. We must all work together for the common good of us all. I look forward to working with the Interfaith volunteers from all of the Inn Soup Kitchens and representatives from the Islamic Center, as well as the Long Island Council of Churches, to help strengthen the existing interfaith clergy efforts community-wide, and in some areas to rebuild or create anew the interfaith community dialogue. We will then work with them to not only feed their neighbors in need through soup kitchens and food pantries, but will also help all of us feed our spirits through interfaith conversations about how we all share the common belief that we should all do unto others as we would have done unto us. Thank you very much.
I'm really glad so many of you have come, and I'm really glad that the Interfaith Institute is able to host this dialogue. I think one of the things that's often really misunderstood between Muslims and non-Muslims are these traditions of clothing. And it's not a big deal, probably, but it is one that leads to great misunderstanding, as we've seen in anti-hijab laws and an institution that purports to be Christian firing somebody for wearing it. Just really, I can't explain that one to you. You'll have to talk to someone else to explain that. I myself have often not really understood these traditions. I don't even really understand traditions of modesty, having grown up in a beach town in Southern California in the 1860s, but I'm coming around to it slowly. But I've never myself quite understood how that applies to hair and to the covering of hair. So it was humbling to me, after having just wondered what is this for years, to learn that the origins of that within Islam are that when Muslims first tried to figure out what's it mean to dress modestly, they decided to copy their Christian neighbors, who of course covered women from head to toe. It still, to me, is a mystery why the rules are different for men and women in Islam, I would have to say. But then it's humbling to realize that when it comes to double standards, that may be something you learn from Christians too. So I'm looking forward to learning more about how Muslims understand this, how Christians understand humility, how we can talk about this respectfully, and how we can build bridges rather than to toss insults across bridges. So thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Before I invite the next